Hey guys, welcome back. So, I thought I would take this opportunity to go through some homeschooling books that you should have in your life. So, I'm going to start with Waldorf books because that just happens to be right here. So, the first book we have is called Beyond the Rainbow Bridge. And this is kind of like not only homeschooling related, but like developmental. And it gives you a really good overview of like early childhood education from a Waldorf perspective. And it's not too dense of a read. So this would be a good place to start if you have a younger child and you're interested in learning more about Waldorf. We have the Waldorf Homeschool Handbook by Donna Ashton. And this is not the Donna of Christophorus. If any of you happen to know her name's Donna Simmons. And so this is about kind of relating Waldorf homeschool theory, because traditionally, as you probably know, Waldorf is in physical school buildings, and it was originally started at the Waldorf Astoria, or not Waldorf Astoria, the Waldorf cigarette factory in Germany. I think in Stuttgart, I'm not sure. Anyway, so this is about homeschooling. And then next we have The Kingdom of Childhood, and this is a couple of Steiner lectures. If you want to learn more about Rudolf Steiner and you're trying to, do the inner work relating to Waldorf, this is a good one. Then Seven Times the Sun. This is kind of like the Rainbow Bridge book. It's about early childhood Waldorf-y stuff. And here you can see the table of contents. Sorry for my background noise. And that's this one. And I read these all a long time ago, so please don't ask me what they're about because I don't remember, but they were really good and good enough for me to not donate or sell. So this is what's included in here. And learning about rhythm in particular is really good if you're not used to having your kids at home with you, like maybe they were in school or they were in daycare and you're trying to figure out how to keep them occupied, stuff like that. I'm just showing random pages, so... Okay, so that's the Waldorf-y stuff. The two books that are or three books, I tried to be organized, but related to like unschooling and natural learning. This is my absolute favorite, Free to Learn by Peter Gray. He is on Facebook and has a Substack if you're interested in reading more by him. He is a biological anthropologist who studies children all around the world, or used to anyway, from an anthropological standpoint. This is just my favorite book I have on learning. These are the chapters, and he's got articles on Psychology Today and things if you want to learn more about him. And I refer back to this all the time. It's just really good, and I think it's useful in any homeschool, but I would use this definitely as a starting point, especially if you're trying to de-school yourself or like make a transition from school to homeschooling. Get this book, very good. There is another book called, I think, Free to Learn by Pamela Rickia. I have it on Kindle. I don't have a physical copy. That's another great book. I think there's one called Free to Play, also by Pamela Rickia. She also has a podcast. If you want to know more about that and you can't find it, ask me in the comments and I'll give you the link. But yeah, so that's related to unschooling. Then we have considered the father of homeschooling, John Holt, Learning All the Time. And I marked this one up because I think I had pulled quotes for my Instagram. But he kind of invented this whole concept about not learning despite or without school. These are his other books. I also really liked How Children Fail. That was a good one. And Teach Your Own. This is my favorite, Learning All the Time. How Children Learn, How Children Fail. Those are also good ones. I would do those if you're interested. And he just talks about like ways in which children learn naturally. Which again, if you're just making the transition into homeschooling, I would start with the unschooling things because they help you shift your paradigm from a perspective of like being in a structured school environment to what is learning, which is kind of two different constructs, if that makes sense. And then we have Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto. He was a New York City public school teacher, award-winning, and became an advocate of self-education. He also wrote this really great book, which I have digitally, called Weapons of Mass Instruction. And it just kind of explains how in school, the focus isn't solely on learning because of the parameters of school. Like, for example, teachers' job isn't only to teach the students, they also have to be accountable to their administration, and they also have to have their students passing state standardized tests. And if you look at standardized tests, the information on there is tested in a certain way, so you have to teach to the test, and it kind of puts all of these constraints on learning. And I just particularly feel that teachers really get the short end of the stick with all of these constraints put on them, because I've seen so many of them in person and on social media, YouTube. I know these are caring educators that could just do so much more if they were freed from these constraints. But anyway, so this and Weapons of Mass Instruction, highly recommend. There's also a 5-hour long interview with him. He passed away a couple years ago, I think, from a stroke. So he's no longer, he used to be pretty active on Twitter and things. But there's an interview with him. I think it's 5 hours. I don't know what it's called, but look into that if you're interested. So that's like the unschooly stuff, and there is more. I just don't have all of the books in my house anymore. But anyway, if you're interested, you can ask me. Next, we'll do Charlotte Mason. So this is by far the most helpful book that I've read personally about Charlotte Mason. It's called Charlotte Mason Companion by Karen Andriola. So you can go read all of the Charlotte Mason books, and there's articles and all sorts of stuff, especially if you're like in the CMEC. They have all of these materials and things. But this is like dumbing it down for like the idiot's guide to Charlotte Mason. And one of my friends who has older kids told me about this, 15 years ago or whatever. And it's just kind of like a how-to guide, and it's just really good. Like, if you're interested in Charlotte Mason and you haven't already read her stuff, or you read it and you're like, what is happening? I would get this book. Definitely a used copy. This one's used. It used to have the person's name on it. This is a really good reference book to have. And then we have Charlotte Mason Education, Homeschooling How-To Manual. I don't even know where I found this. I mean, probably on Amazon, but it must have been someone recommended it to me or something. Oh, and a really good book, which I actually lent to my friend, or I gave to her, is by Kathy. Oh God, what is it called? She has like 8 kids and only one is a girl. A mother's something. Remind me to put that in the comments. It's so good. It's like a reflection on her time as a homeschooling mom now that her kids are all grown, and she was a Charlotte Mason homeschooling mom. I wish I could remember, but remind me, actually, you know what, I'll write it down if I can find a pen. What is, oh my God, this pen doesn't work. Kathy, Robison, book, Mother's something. There's a bird on the cover. So hopefully some of you know what I'm talking about. Okay, hopefully I'll remember that. Okay, so this book, and then this one is by Leah Bowden, who I can't remember what she's in charge of, but she's like a very well-known Charlotte Mason mom, and as you can see, there's a green crayon on here with the joke being in Charlotte Mason homeschooling circles. You know, the color green is banned because it doesn't occur in nature like that. You have to mix your own watercolor green. And here's the contents on that. And she has, I think I either listened to the audiobook version of this or I heard a podcast with her. Just a really great perspective on not taking things too seriously and being, bringing your own gifts to the table with your kids and things like that. And she's based out of the UK, so it's a little bit different than the US perspective. And then Amber O'Neill Johnston's book, she often speaks with the Wild and Free. I don't know if she's officially affiliated with them or what, but she's one of my favorite moms on social media. And she talks about how to make like Charlotte Mason relevant to your kids. And so this book talks about, if you're not familiar with the concept of windows and mirrors, and I don't know if she touches on sliding glass doors, but basically finding books that reflect your family culture and your children. And I think she also talks about how to make homeschooling groups more expansive and welcoming to different kinds of people instead of being this like, I don't know what the word is, but I think you guys might know what I mean. So she's great, and I love following her on Instagram. She was just sharing yesterday about there's a black doctor in the Little House series, and how her daughters were inspired by that doctor's characters, and before that they didn't feel like they could relate to the story. And obviously Little House has other problematic, themes and things in it, so it was cool to see that they were able to find something that they could relate back to themselves. So anyway, that's a great book to have in your library and read. Next, we're going to go to classical stuff. So this is Simply Classical. It's by Cheryl Swope. She's one of the Memoria Press thought leaders. I'm not really sure what her role is, but I've seen her name in many places. This one was recommended in the Memoria Press forum, and I think it was specifically recommended for talking about how to adjust classical education for special needs. So I read this one. I didn't really connect with it as much as some other books, but there were moms who were swearing by it, particularly for the special needs thing, like I was saying, because I think maybe her child was or something. I don't know, but I just wanted to show this one to you guys in case that's something you're interested in. And then this book I got recently, you saw in my Memoria Press haul. This is The Defense of a Classical Education, which this was written before the whole progressive education movement, which is not to be confused with the progressive political movement. It's a different thing. But it was talking about like why should we have classical education, which is defined as studying ancient Greece and Rome and learning Greek and Latin, Greek and Latin, and reading original texts in those languages, and the beauty of the different streams of study and what have you. I don't know what the word is. It's not streams, but anyway, I think you get the point. And then of course we have the Classical Movement Bible, The Well-Trained Mind. If you're not well versed in this whole pedagogical situation, this is considered neoclassical because the focus is on history and not on actual classics of like the Romans and the Greeks. But this is more approachable, and I promised one of you I was going to send you my other copy, and I have it. I just need to remember to coordinate shipping with you. But it's great. I mean, you might be able to see there's like all my notes in here. This is one of the first books that I really dug into. And there's also another really great book by, what's his name? E.D. Hirsch, about educating a citizen, and that gets into like the core knowledge stuff. Core knowledge is like a classic concept of having kids read this content, during a certain grade level. And this is often in the library. So if you're interested in The Well-Trained Mind, this is by Susan Wise Bauer, definitely look at your library. I think I got this at the thrift store too. Okay, and then the last pile, so I should have done this when I did Unschooling. This is Thomas Jefferson Education. So this is kind of like the background context for everything that I do, which is doing things in stages. And so Thomas Jefferson Education, it really talks about like helping your child meet the needs for their particular mission and finding the classics in that particular field. So for example, Oliver DeMille is the author of this book. It's him and his wife, Rachel DeMille. He talks about like if your kid's really into surfing, then you should find the classics of surfing. And that's one example that's always stuck with me. So there's some catchphrase. It's like creating an education to match their mission or whatever. But so this is the first book, volume 1. And this really talks about the way that Thomas Jefferson was educated, which was having these great books and learning from mentors and a really good high quality education. Show you the table of contents, and they have all these audio lectures and things on their website. I did this like 10 years ago, so I can't really tell you like what the up-to-date stuff is, but if you're interested, it kind of, so the first phrase is like core learning, and this is the book where it tells you, so as you can see, it's volume 2, volume 3. I guess I'll go in order. So first you have the core, which is like kids playing in the dirt, kids going to the library, learning from experiences, playing, being a part of the family. And then you have the love of learning phase, which is where kids are learning about all these different things and learning different things and being a part of the community. And then when they're like 12, 13, 14, they enter the scholar phase, which is kind of like the traditional view of high school, for example. And during that time, they're supposed to be devoted to being scholars. And then after that, I don't remember what the other phrase is, but it's like they're a fully formed adult and they're working and they're like a great citizen. So one of the things I like about Thomas Jefferson education is like there's a big overview of different developmental theories. So like here's Piaget, for example. And so they really give you a context of how modern education was developed and what might be potentially problematic about that. And is like there's different, they call them ingredients. I don't want to give away too much that's in this book, but I really like it. And a lot of it has just become part of our family culture. Like, for example, going to the library or having lots of different books on the bookshelf, or I don't remember specifically at this point because so much time has passed, but a lot of these things I've really internalized. And now that I have a child about to graduate from high school, it really reveals like when she was younger, I did put a huge emphasis on not academics, on like having fun, learning right from wrong, things like that. And like maintaining the heart of childhood, which is play. And now that she's in the scholar phase in high school, she is doing, very intensive, extensive academic work. So it's kind of like, in some ways, contrary to classical, because you're not starting all of that hard stuff when they're younger. You're waiting until they're older. But anyway, so if you want to kind of learn more about that, their website's tjed.org. And actually, one of my kids is under their math section with tangrams, which is kind of cute. And then this is the volume 3, a home companion. And there are a couple other books. I just don't know where they are. And they wrote a really great book about the Constitution, if you're interested. Anyway, so this talks about a couple of different ways of applying Thomas Jefferson education. And again, I read this like over 10 years ago, so I don't remember, but I know it was good. Because again, if it's on my shelf, that means I didn't give it away or sell it or whatever. This book is by Amy Edwards, but this is about the love of learning phase for Thomas Jefferson education, and it has a great cover. This was really helpful to me for like the middle school age. And here's the table of contents. And so the lollipop picture is like love of learning. Let me see if I could quickly find it. In pursuit of, here we go. Love of learning integrated with projects, opportunities for service, and play. So it's like this time of exploration and learning different things. And here's a cute or a good quote. As parents and teachers, we must resist our anxiety to cram information into these kids, meaning these age kids, and trust that we help them fall in love with learning. They'll seek out information on their own. And then we understand these children have their whole lives to fill their buckets. So that's kind of the premise of this. And this is based, again, on the Thomas Jefferson stuff. So these things really all go together. Very good. And if you, like I said, if you want to learn more, definitely I would recommend checking out their lectures. Oh, I was going to tell you when I was talking about the Peter Gray book. So there's another book called The Gardener and the Carpenter by Alison Gopnik. And it's also generally about the science of learning in children, and I definitely highly recommend it. I have no idea where my copy is because I have it on Kindle or whatever. Now I'm going to show you just like generally applicable books that I think are good. This one is Einstein Never Used Flashcards. This is a really well-known book. It's basically talking about like you don't need to teach your baby to read, don't need to show your baby flashcards. They're going to be fine. Here's the table of contents. This is really good, especially if you are like me and you went to a prestigious or competitive graduate school program and your understanding of the world is that everybody needs to be a gunner and doing all of these things very competitively at a very young age. This book will help you chill out. Or you could get it for relatives who are questioning why you're homeschooling. That'd be good too. Some of my best friends are books. So this is for gifted readers in particular. And this has like, what's the word? has information about gifted readers in general. And then I think it has book lists. I don't really remember. It's been a good deal of time since I read these, but oh yeah, see, traditional literature. So let's see. Here's a middle school list. Oh yeah, so this is just books. Books. Here's a book. Here's a book. So if you have gifted readers that are reading like crazy and you can't find books for them, this is a good book. I think I got this from some gifted website. So there's that. Then relatedly, Honey for a Child's Heart. This is only a book list, I think, right? Oh yeah, so here's like young adult novels, and it just like lists them out so that you, because you have all these children, you don't have time to read all the books. This is kind of like a Cliff's Note version or Common Sense Media situation type of book, but you can refer back to it without having to go on Google or whatever, you know? So this is good. I think there's an older children version. This one's for 0 to 14. I'm not sure, but I think I own another one of these for older readers. So there's that. Then we have Home Learning Year by Year. There's a lot of books like this. I don't really refer to this at all, but this would be helpful if you have no idea what you want to do with your kids and you want like someone telling you what to do, if that makes sense, but you don't want to do like the public school thing. This would be a good place to start. This definitely is like another book I'm about to show you like goes overboard, and I don't think it's all necessary, but it is helpful, especially if you're just starting out and you have like no idea where you're going or what to do or what have you. And then relatedly, this is an E.D. Hirsch book. So he did these for every age, I think. And so core knowledge is, the books I've shown you guys before. I think this preceded all of that whole situation. This was like, he thought people should know these things, so he put it into a book, and it's like way more than I feel you could actually accomplish in a year. But it's cool if like you're looking. This is actually in a book we just read. Oh, Gaugine. Interesting. We saw Gaugine at an art museum. Anyway, it's a good reference book, right? Like I wouldn't follow it like a Bible or whatever, but if you need some help figuring out what to do with your kids, or you have a lot of kids and you don't want to do the same things you've already done, it's good for that. And then the last book, this is just like homemaking related. I think Julie Bogart had mentioned this in something, so I had to get it.